What happens when the most powerful villain from Invincible faces off against horror's deadliest monsters? Omni-Man has conquered planets, but there's one creature on this list that would make even him tremble. By the end of this video, you'll know which horror monster could actually kill the unstoppable Viltrumite. My dog wanted to say hi for this video, so for every single person that likes this video and subscribes, I'll give him a boop on the head. Thank you. Let's kick things off with everyone's favorite supernatural murder clown. No, not Pennywise. We'll get to him later. I'm talking about Art the Clown, the black and white nightmare fuel from the Terrifier franchise. If you haven't seen these movies yet, maybe don't watch them alone or while eating. Trust me, your stomach will thank me later. Art isn't your typical birthday party clown who makes balloon animals, unless those animals are made from your intestines. This demonic entity has a habit of coming back from the dead, torturing his victims in the most creative ways possible, and often turning their bodies into his own twisted art projects. In Terrifier 3, we learn he's literally collecting souls for Satan, because why have a subtle backstory when you go full, I'm working for the actual devil? Now let's compare these two psychopaths. On one hand, we have Art with his supernatural strength, regenerative abilities, and apparent immortality. Shoot him, stab him, even blow his brains out. He'll just come back for more. Plus, he's got that creepy silent mime thing going on, which honestly would probably just annoy Omni-Man. On the other hand, we have Nolan Grayson, a Viltrumite warrior with thousands of years of experience, who can punch through mountains, fly faster than sound, and literally destroy an entire civilization while having a father-son chat. You know, typical dad stuff. His weakness? Apparently having a tiny sliver of conscience buried beneath all that muscle and mustache. Imagine this. Art is doing his usual terrifying routine in an abandoned carnival. He's just finished turning some teenager into a human jigsaw puzzle when he spots a mustachioed man floating above him, arms crossed, looking thoroughly unimpressed. Art does his signature head tilt, maybe throws a knife that Omni-Man doesn't even bother dodging. Is that supposed to be scary? Omni-Man would probably ask, catching the knife between his fingers. I've stepped on more threatening insects. The outcome, let's be real, Art would be turned into a red smear faster than you can say Viltrumite superiority. Omni-Man wouldn't even break a sweat. He'd probably just fly through Art at supersonic speed, atomizing him on impact. And while yes, Art does have that whole resurrection thing going for him, Omni-Man could just I don't know, throw him into the sun. Good luck regenerating from that, clown boy. But here's the kicker though. Art's true power isn't his physical strength, it's psychological terror. And that's where he would completely fail against Omni-Man. The Viltrumite has seen civilizations rise and fall, has participated in the culling of his own people, and has committed genocide multiple times. It's basically a hobby for him at this point. A creepy clown with a knife? That's a Tuesday for him. So while Art might give us humans nightmares for weeks, to Omni-Man, he'd be nothing more than a mildly annoying pest that needs to be squashed. Sorry, Art fans, your favorite killer clown just isn't in the same weight class as a planet-destroying alien warrior. Better luck with your next victim. But if Art the Clown is the appetizer in this horror buffet, Pennywise is the main course, because while Art might want your body for his art projects, Pennywise wants something much more valuable, your fear. And even Viltrumites feel fear, don't they? Because we're floating into the sewers of Derry, Maine, home to everyone's favorite dancing clown, Pennywise. And he isn't just any horror villain. He's actually a cosmic entity older than our universe, who decided his best disguise would be a clown. Because apparently in the Cosmic Horror Handbook, terrifying children is right up there with consuming planets. Unlike Art, Pennywise doesn't just want to kill you. He wants to season you up first like a nice filet mignon. Fear is literally his salt and pepper, and he needs you absolutely terrified before he takes a bite. Think of him as like a Gordon Ramsay of interdimensional predators, except instead of yelling that you're an idiot sandwich, he becomes your worst nightmare before eating your soul. Pennywise's true form, the Deadliest, is supposedly so incomprehensible that merely glimpsing it drives humans insane. He's got reality warping powers, can shapeshift into literally anything, and has been feeding on the citizens of Derry for centuries. His only real weakness? Yeah, that's when people stop being afraid of him. And then he turns into something resembling a sad, deflated carnival attraction that can literally be bullied to death. And you thought your existential crises were bad. So how would this fear-feeding entity face against the mighty mustache of Viltrumite superiority? Let's break it down. Imagine Omni-Man flying over Derry, probably looking for somewhere to get a sandwich, because why not? Suddenly he notices a red balloon floating unnaturally against the wind. Curious, he follows it into a storm drain. "Hiya, Nolan," comes a voice from below. "Do you want your balloon back? They all float down here. You float too." Pennywise might try the direct approach first, maybe appearing as Debbie or Mark in peril or something creepy like that. But here's the problem. Omni-Man's greatest fears aren't really about losing his family. The man literally beat his son half to death while explaining how humans are basically pets to him. He's not exactly winning Father of the Year material. Perhaps Pennywise could dig deeper though, trying to maybe manifest as the Scourge virus that nearly wiped out all the Viltrumites, or maybe as Thrag, one of the few beings who could actually challenge Nolan. But even then, Pennywise's whole shtick depends on his victim being paralyzed by fear. And Omni-Man has spent thousands of years as a warrior. He doesn't just freeze up. he fights. The moment Pennywise realizes that his fear tactics won't work, he'd be in trouble. Because while a bunch of kids could defeat him by simply not being afraid, Omni-Man would take it a step further and introduce Pennywise's face to the center of the earth at Mach 10. Even if Pennywise revealed his true Deadliest form, Omni-Man being a Viltrumite would likely protect him from the mind-breaking effects that cripple humans. Sorry, but a being who can tank nukes probably isn't going to be overwhelmed by some cosmic light show. The verdict? Pennywise is going to get his ass kicked. The ancient cosmic entity who's been terrorizing a small Maine town for centuries would discover that there are scarier things in the universe than himself, like a mustachioed alien who views genocide as a Tuesday afternoon activity. Okay, so a shape-shifting fear clown is no match for Omni-Man, but what about something that doesn't just mimic your fears? What if it literally became you, cell by cell? The thing doesn't care how tough you are on the outside when it's busy becoming you from the inside out. Welcome to Antarctica, where the temperature drops faster than your motivation to go to the gym after New Year's is over. It's also home to our next contender, the Thing, an alien parasite that makes body snatchers look like amateur hour. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's 1982 masterpiece, why haven't you? That's a big mistake you're making right now. The Thing is a shape-shifting organism that assimilates and perfectly replicates any living being it touches. And it's not just visually, we're talking down to the cellular level. It doesn't just wear your face, it becomes you, memories and all, then uses your body as a meat puppet to get close to its next victim. Sweet dreams. What makes the Thing truly terrifying isn't just what it does, but how it creates paranoia. In a small Antarctic research station, nobody knows who's human and who's secretly waiting to sprout tentacles and spider legs when the coffee pot runs empty. Its only known weakness? That's fire. Lots and lots of fire. So how would this copycat fare against our favorite planet destroyer? Let's imagine Omni-Man somehow crashes in Antarctica. I don't know, maybe he got bored on Earth and he wanted to go look at the penguins. I don't know. He stumbles upon an abandoned research station and finds a single survivor huddling in the corner. The survivor would beg him, please help me get out of here. And Omni-Man, not exactly known for his compassion, might consider leaving this human popsicle to their fate. But wait, that would be too easy for our story. Let's say he decides to investigate, maybe find some bizarre remains that look like failed taxidermy projects from someone who's only seen humans in blurry photographs. The Thing, sensing a new potential host, would make its move. Maybe it lunges at Omni-Man, trying to establish that critical cellular contact needed for assimilation. And here's where things get interesting. Could the Thing actually assimilate Viltrumite biology? Because Viltrumites aren't human. They're an alien species with incredibly dense molecular structures that can withstand the vacuum of space, tank nuclear explosions, and regenerate from massive injuries. Their cells are fundamentally different from anything the Thing encountered in that research station. And remember how the Thing struggled when it tried to assimilate the station's dog? That was just a different mammalian species. Trying to copy Viltrumite DNA would be like asking me to explain quantum physics. Theoretically possible, but probably just going to result in confused screaming and probably making babies cry. Even if the Thing managed to get a piece of Omni-Man, but good luck with that, the man's skin can deflect bullets. The moment it tried to hijack his alien cellular structure, it would likely face rejection faster than I did asking out my high school crush. But let's be generous and say the Thing somehow overcomes these barriers and begins assimilation. The second that Omni-Man felt anything weird happening to his body, he'd do what Viltrumites do best: resort to overwhelming amounts of violence. He could fly into the sun to burn out the infection, or simply use his own innate ability to control his molecules, which is what lets the Viltrumites fly, to reject the invasion. The verdict? Unlike those poor researchers who had to resort to blood tests and flamethrowers, Omni-Man's alien physiology and overwhelming power would make him virtually assimilation-proof. The Thing would just become another weird alien Omni-Man destroyed on his lunch break. But if you thought a microscopic battle was intense, let's supersize this competition. The Cloverfield monster might not be able to copy you on a cellular level, but it can certainly step on you like an ant, and not in a good way. When buildings are just chew toys, does size finally give a horror monster the edge against Omni-Man? So the Cloverfield monster, or Clover if you're on a first-name basis with a city-destroying behemoth, is basically what happens when someone feeds a sea creature radioactive growth hormones and abandonment issues. Standing around 25 stories tall, which is roughly 300 feet for those of you who skipped math class, this massive alien infant stomps through Manhattan like it's throwing the world's deadliest temper tantrum. And yes, you heard that right. Infant. According to the director, Matt Reeves, this mountain-sized nightmare is just a baby separated from its mommy. That doesn't make you feel better about your own childhood outbursts? Nothing will. Besides its Godzilla-shaming size, Clover comes equipped with thick armor-like skin that shrugs off military weaponry, enough strength to decapitate the Statue of Liberty, and those charming parasites that fall off its body and bite people's faces off. It's essentially a walking disaster movie with appendages. So how would this skyscraper-sized space toddler fare against a Viltrumite who punched through an entire planet? Let's play this out. Picture Omni-Man flying over New York, probably judging humanity as usual, when suddenly the ground shakes and buildings start collapsing. He spots Clover stomping through Times Square, swatting helicopters like flies and roaring loud enough to shatter windows. Your first instinct might be, finally, a monster big enough to challenge Omni-Man. And if you're thinking that, congratulations, you've fallen into the classic bigger must be better trap. Size can be deceiving. Remember when Omni-Man flew through that alien planet? The one with the crystalline mountains and civilizations? He flew through it. Not around it, through it. The impact destroyed the entire planet. And I hate to break it to Clover fans, but being 300 feet tall doesn't help much when your opponent can literally punch through celestial bodies. The military in Cloverfield struggled to damage the monster with conventional weapons, but Omni-Man isn't firing missiles. He's essentially a missile himself, capable of moving at speeds that would make the monster look like it's frozen in time. One supersonic punch from Nolan would likely send Clover's head into orbit while the body's still figuring out what happened. Even if Clover somehow landed a hit on Omni-Man, Viltrumite durability would treat it like a gentle pat. This is a being who can survive in the vacuum of space, tank explosions that level cities, and regenerate from injuries that would turn most superheroes into red mist. As for those parasites, they'd be less annoying to Omni-Man than mosquitoes are to us. Actually, that's not even fair to mosquitoes. At least they can pierce human skin. These parasites would not stand a chance against Omni-Man. The verdict? Sorry, Clover. Being the biggest monster in your movie franchise is impressive, but in this matchup, you're just a bigger target. Size clearly doesn't matter when facing a Viltrumite, but what about someone with almost identical powers? Brightburn's Brandon Breyer is essentially evil Superman with mommy issues. When Omni-Man faces his adolescent reflection, which superpowered sociopath reigns supreme in the weird family reunion? From massive monsters to moody teenagers, we've now reached the angsty adolescent portion of our horror lineup. Brightburn gives us Brandon Breyers. Basically what would happen if Clark Kent discovered Lincoln Park and decided that being a hero was too mainstream. Crash landing in Kansas because apparently aliens have a weird obsession with rural America, Brandon was raised by loving adoptive parents until his 12th birthday. Well, that was when his spaceship started sending him the most motivational of messages. Take the world, not help people or use your powers responsibly. Just straight up planetary conquest. Yeah, talk about skipping the whole tutorial level and being a superhero. Brandon's powers read like Superman's resume: super strength, flight, heat vision, invulnerability to conventional weapons, and the ability to make extremely creepy masks out of old blankets. His only known weakness is material from his own spaceship, which conveniently his mom tried to stab him with. By the end of the movie, this preteen horror is causing airplane crashes and leaving his signature symbol at disaster sites across the globe. Pretty impressive from someone who probably still has homework due on a Monday. So how would Brandon face against Space Dad of the Year, Omni-Man? Let's break it down. On paper, their powers are similar. Both are aliens with super strength, flight, and impressive durability. You might think this would make it an even match though. Well, you'd be wrong. Like so wrong. Like the earth is flat level of wrong. Remember when you thought you were hot stuff because you could do a kickflip on your skateboard and then some late 20-year-old dude at the park did a triple backflip while drinking coffee? Well, that's basically this matchup. Brandon has had his powers for what? A few months? Omni-Man has been honing his abilities for thousands of years. Imagine the encounter. Brandon floating menacingly above some small town, probably about to heat vision someone who made fun of his jacket, when suddenly a mustache blur slams into him, sending him bouncing across state lines like a superpowered skipping stone. Yeah, it's Omni-Man. The scary part, Omni-Man might actually see potential in Brandon. Here's another alien sent to conquer Earth with a similar mission to his own. He might even offer to mentor the boy, which would be the most terrifying father-son camping trip since, well, you know, Omni-Man's actual camping trip with Mark. Well, at this point, Omni-Man doesn't even like his own son, Mark. This would be the perfect replacement because this son is actually evil, but any alliance would be short-lived. But Brandon's pouty teenage angst would definitely clash with Nolan's my way or the highway type of leadership. And the moment that Brandon challenges authority, Omni-Man would remind him that there's always a bigger fish in the cosmic pond of space. Even with his spaceship material weakness, Omni-Man wouldn't need it. Brandon got knocked around by regular humans who just happened to know his weakness. Omni-Man could literally throw him into the sun before Brandon even processed what was happening. The verdict? This wouldn't even be a fight. It would be an adoption followed by the harshest alien boot camp ever, followed by disciplinary action. Yeah, trust me, after 5 minutes with Omni-Man, Brandon would be begging to go back to his human parents. Maybe this was the dad that he needed all along. But from Earth's most disturbed teenager to the most persistent blob of goo, well, Brandon at least had a humanoid form to punch. Our next contender is basically angry Jello with an appetite. When you can't punch, stab, or reason with something, does Omni-Man finally meet his match in the Blob? The Blob isn't complicated or nuanced. It's basically what happens when someone spills a smoothie and that smoothie decided it's hungry for human flesh. Yeah, there's no motivation here beyond consume everything. And there's no tragic backstory, just an ever-growing mass of gelatinous doom that rolls through town like a very angry, very hungry amoeba. Originally crash landing via meteorite in the 1958 classic, or created as a government experiment gone wrong in the 1988 remake, if you prefer your horror with a side of conspiracy, the Blob starts small but grows with every person it absorbs. Think of it as a deadly all-you-can-eat buffet where you are the main course. What makes the Blob particularly nightmare-inducing is how it kills. It doesn't just eat you, it envelops and dissolves you slowly, breaking down your body while you're still conscious. You're essentially being digested alive. Its only known weakness? Extreme cold. Get it cold enough and it freezes solid. That's why the original movie ends with the Blob being airdropped into the Arctic. Problem solved, right? Well, until global warming enters the chat. So how would this hungry puddle fare against the mighty Viltrumite? Let's imagine the encounter. Omni-Man is flying over a small town, probably contemplating which civilization to critique next, when he notices something odd, a weird reddish mass oozing through the streets, consuming everything in its path. People are screaming, running, the usual human panic that Nolan finds so tedious to deal with. He lands near the Blob, crossing his arms in that judgmental pose he always does. What's this supposed to be? Earth's defense system? Pathetic. The Blob, being a mindless eating machine, does what comes naturally. It surges towards this new potential meal. But here's where things get interesting. When the Blob touches Omni-Man, it would attempt to envelop and dissolve him like any other usual victim. But there's one problem. Viltrumite skin isn't like human skin. This is the same body that can take direct hits from nuclear explosions, survive in the vacuum of space, and endure temperatures that would vaporize steel. The Blob's acidic properties would be about as effective as spraying a tank with a water gun. Did you just try to eat me? Omni-Man would probably ask, more annoyed than threatened. Yeah, even if the Blob somehow managed to completely engulf him, Omni-Man could simply fly upwards at supersonic speeds, breaking free by sheer force. And remember the Blob's one weakness? Cold? Well, guess what's really fucking cold? Space. One quick trip to the upper atmosphere and the Blob would be flash frozen faster than that ice cream you forgot in the back of your freezer. Or, if Omni-Man was feeling particularly unimaginative that day, he could just fly the Blob into the sun. Good luck dissolving anything when you're being vaporized at 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. The verdict? Well, the Blob might be the all-consuming terror of small-town America. To Omni-Man, it would just be an annoying stain on his outfit. Our next monster throws the rulebook out the window, replacing it with a 23-day feeding frenzy every 23 years. When the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers sets its sights on Viltrumite organs, will its ancient hunger finally meet its match in an even more ancient warrior? This ancient demon operates on a bizarre feeding schedule that makes intermittent fasting look reasonable. It wakes up every 23 years, eats for exactly 23 days, then goes back to sleep. Talk about commitment to your diet plan, because I can't even stick to eating healthy for 23 minutes. The Creeper isn't just any random monster though. It's got some weird things it's into. It doesn't just kill people. It carefully selects victims based on which body parts it wants to harvest from them. Think of it as organ shopping, but with more screaming, an old rusty truck instead of a shopping cart. Its powers include supernatural strength, regenerative abilities, leathery bat wings for flight, and an uncanny talent for crafting weapons from the bones of its victims. Oh, and it can smell fear. Literally, it can sniff out which organs it wants from miles away, which has to be the worst superpower for dinner parties. Also, I heard it's coming after Johnny Sins next. I don't know why it would, but I got an email telling me that was gonna happen. So how would this organ harvesting demon fare against our mustached Viltrumite? Let's picture this weird battle. The Creeper is cruising down a lonely country road in its old ass truck, blasting Jeepers Creepers on the radio because why not, when it catches an unfamiliar scent. It follows the scent to find Omni-Man standing in a field, probably monologuing about human weaknesses or something equally as fucking annoying. The Creeper circles overhead, assessing this potential harvest, its ancient senses telling it that this prey is different from the usual teenagers it stalks. The Creeper swoops down, talons extended, ready to claim whatever Viltrumite organ has caught its interest. Maybe it's excited about upgrading to alien parts. Anyways, bad move, buddy. Before the Creeper can even register what's happening, Omnium would likely catch it midair with the same effort you'd use to swat a fly. Yeah. The Creeper is screwed. The fundamental problem for the Creeper is compatibility. Its whole thing is harvesting human organs to replace its own failing parts. But Viltrumite biology is completely alien. Their organs are designed to withstand forces that would liquefy human tissue. It would be like trying to replace your car engine with a blender. Technically, both have motors, but good luck making that work, genius. Even if the Creeper somehow managed to land a hit, Omni-Man's regenerative abilities far outstrip anything the demon could dish out. And when Omni-Man decided to counterattack, well, the Creeper might be immortal in the movies, but it never faced a being who could punch with enough force to shatter mountains. The verdict, the Creeper would go from predator to a pile of goo on the floor faster than you can say, where'd you get those peepers? Its 23-day feeding frenzy would end prematurely, and that rusty old truck would probably end up as a modern art installation somewhere in the upper atmosphere after Omni-Man threw it into orbit. But if a solitary hunter like the Creeper is no match for Omni-Man, what about a species that evolved specifically to kill? Xenomorphs don't just hunt, they adapt, reproduce to their victims, and have acid for blood. When the perfect organism meets the perfect warrior, will Omni-Man finally face something that makes him sweat? If you don't know about the Alien movies, basically imagine the world's worst awful house guest who arrives uninvited, redecorates your chest cavity, and has the worst table manners imaginable. These sleek biomechanical nightmares aren't just random monsters, they're practically perfect killing machines. As the android Ash would put it, they're organisms with structural perfection matched only by its hostility. That's science speak for you're fucked, dude. What makes xenomorphs particularly terrifying is their life cycle. It starts with an egg, which hatches a facehugger, which is a spider-like creature that latches onto your face and shoves an embryo down your throat. Hours later, a chest burster erupts from your ribcage in the galaxy's worst gender reveal party ever. This quickly grows into an adult xenomorph that inherits traits from its host, making each one uniquely adapted to its environment. Oh, and their blood is basically industrial strength acid that melts through metal, concrete, and pretty much anything else. Even killing them is dangerous. Congratulations, you've just been splashed with corrosive alien blood. Their hive mentality, stealth abilities, and the presence of a queen that lays hundreds of eggs make them a threat that can quickly overwhelm entire colonies. So how would these perfect killing machines fare against the perfect Viltrumite warrior? Let's imagine this acid-dripping showdown. Omni-Man is investing a weird spaceship that came into Earth's orbit. Anyways, he discovers signs of a massacre, claw marks, mysterious resin on the walls, and suspiciously person-shaped holes in the floor. As he explores deeper, he encounters his first xenomorph, probably hanging from the ceiling because why not? It drops down, hissing and drooling, ready to claim a new, particularly powerful host. The first thing a xenomorph would try is a direct attack. Claws, teeth, and a tail aimed at Omni-Man, but these would be about as effective as attacking a tank with a plastic spoon. Viltrumite's skin, which can withstand nuclear explosions and planetary re-entry, isn't going to be scratched by alien claws, no matter how sharp they are. But here's where things get interesting. The xenomorph's blood sprays from the impact, splatting onto Omni-Man. Would the acid blood be strong enough to burn Viltrumite flesh? Possibly, but marginally at best. We've seen Viltrumites withstand conditions that would dissolve normal matter. Their molecular structure is dense enough to survive flying through a planet. The acid might cause minor discomfort, like spilling hot coffee on yourself, but nothing crazy. The real interesting question though is, could a facehugger successfully implant an embryo in Omni-Man? This is where the xenomorphs would truly fail, because facehuggers work by attaching to a host's face, inserting a proboscis down the throat and implanting an embryo. But Omni-Man could 1. Move faster than a facehugger could pounce, 2. Easily tear it off with his strength, or 3. Likely resist implantation due to his alien physiology. Even if by some miracle a chestburster developed, it would face the ultimate hostile environment, Viltrumite internal organs, which are dense enough to withstand the pressure of deep space and the impact of mountains. The verdict? Yeah, even a hive of thousands of xenomorphs would be nothing more than a messy cleanup job for Omni-Man. Their perfect evolutionary design never accounted for something as powerful as a Viltrumite. It's like bringing biological knives to a superpowered gunfight. And there you have it. Even the most deadly monsters of horror are basically nothing against the most powerful being in the invincible universe. If you want more videos like this, make sure to comment down below which person you want to see fight a bunch of horror movies, and like and subscribe to the channel because it really helps me out. And if you want to watch more videos just like this, click the video on screen now.